Hello class 6, this is the first video that I'm making for you all. I hope you all are keeping safe. Okay. This topic that we are going to start, it's called physical quantities and measurement. Okay, this is the second chapter given in your book. Now, to start the topic, we have to first of all understand what physical quantities are, or what is a physical quantity for that matter. Okay, remember, anything that can be measured is called a physical quantity. Okay, anything that we can measure, anything that is measurable is called a physical quantity. Now, for example, mass, length, time, temperature, area, volume, speed, and there are so many other examples of physical quantities: force, velocity, okay, pressure, work, anything. We are going to density. We are going to study a lot about physical quantities, in the classes to follow, and of course in the higher classes as well. Okay, very, very important thing for you all to understand. Okay, mass, length, time, temperature, area, volume, speed, etc. Okay, these are some of the physical quantities that I've mentioned. Now see, take for example this pen. Okay, now if I ask you, is this pen a physical quantity? Or for that matter, the table or chair or desk, the board that you have inside a classroom, are those things physical quantities? Okay, any living or non-living things, like for example including a human being. Okay, is a human being a physical quantity? All right, now to answer those questions, remember, anything that you see, any living thing or a non-living thing, living things or non-living things are not physical quantities. Remember, this pen that we have, this pen is not a physical quantity. This small piece of wood that I have over here, okay, this is not a physical quantity. This piece of wood is not a physical quantity. All right, but what is a physical quantity then? Physical quantity, remember, the length of this piece of wood, the length of it, it is a physical quantity. The breadth, when I say length, the breadth, the height are all physical quantities, remember, because breadth and height are all physical, are basically length. Okay, so the mass of this piece of wood is a physical quantity. Okay, the area of this piece of wood is a physical quantity, remember, but the piece of wood in itself is not a physical quantity. The height of the table that you have in your class, the length of the board that you have in the class, the length of your classroom in itself, okay, these are all physical quantities, but the classroom in itself is not a physical quantity. You are not a physical quantity, but your height, your weight, okay, your volume, your density, okay, are all physical quantities. Remember, your mass, these are all physical quantities. You in itself, you are not a physical quantity. Remember that. I am not a physical quantity. Okay, so so these are the different examples of physical quantities. Now, so anything measurable, anything that can be measured is called a physical quantity. Remember, okay, you cannot measure me. Your physics teacher can't be measured, but the mass of your physics teacher, the height of your physics teacher, okay, the weight of your physics teacher can be measured. All right, so my mass, my weight, my height, these are physical quantities. All right, but I am not a physical quantity. Remember that. Get that thing very, very clearly. Remember. So since we've said anything that can be measured is called a physical quantity, so we've used the word measured, so we need to talk about what actually measurement is. What is measurement? Okay, we need to understand that. See, let me read out the statement that I've written over here. Measurement means to compare an unknown quantity, okay, the thing that is to be measured, to a known fixed quantity, fixed or standard quantity of the same kind. Measurement means to compare an unknown quantity to a known fixed quantity, or you can also say standard quantity of the same kind. Okay, now before we actually jump into this definition, let us understand what these fixed quantity, what is this fixed quantity or standard quantity, like I mentioned. See, many years back, some 100 years back, okay, scientists from all over the world, learned people from all over the world, they got together, all right, and they defined something called fixed quantities or standard quantities. Now these fixed quantities or standard quantities are also called units, are generally called units. Okay, like for example, In order to measure length, the fixed quantity they defined is something like a centimeter or a millimeter, meter, kilometer. Okay, all right. The fixed quantity that they defined was something called a centimeter. Let me give you an example of a centimeter. So I have a ruler over here. So this is the 0 mark. Okay, so from here, from this point to this point, all right, that is 1 centimeter, as you can see in the video clearly. All right, now wherever you go in the world, at whichever corner of the world you go, all right, centimeter will always be this length. It's not that in India centimeter is this big, all right, you go to Australia, centimeter will be this big. It's not that. Okay, centimeter will always be this big in whichever part of the world you go to, America, wherever you go. All right, centimeter is always this big, so it's fixed. All right, so they defined fixed quantities like this, centimeter, or for that part, a millimeter. So this, from this point to here, the first division. All right, this is a millimeter. Okay, now I can't, likewise, a millimeter is the same whichever part of the world you go to. And now I can't show you how long a meter is in this video. All right, whichever part of the world you go to, meter is always the same. Whichever part of the world you go to, kilometer is always the same. So people have, in order to measure length, people have defined fixed quantities, also called standard quantities, generally called units. Okay, units of length. In order to measure length, people have defined fixed quantities like a centimeter, millimeter, meter, kilometer. Likewise, to measure mass, people have defined fixed quantities like a kilogram or a gram. Okay, I hope you have seen that weight of 1 kilogram, okay, in different shops. All right, 1 kilogram, in Nepali it's called a dhak. Okay, I hope all of you have seen a 1 kilogram called dhak. Okay, so this 1 kilogram weight, whichever part of the world you go to, 1 kilogram is always the same. Okay, so it's a fixed quantity. Likewise, 1 gram, whichever part of the world you go to, of course we haven't seen a weight of 1 gram. Okay, but there will be weights of 1 gram also. So at whichever part of the world you go to, 1 gram is the same. Likewise, quintal is 1000 kilogram. Sorry, not 1000, 100 kilogram. 1000 kilogram is called a ton. Okay, so quintal is a fixed quantity. Whichever part of the world you go to, it's always 100 kilograms. Okay, in order to measure time, you have the fixed quantity or the unit defined to be, or it's called second. The fixed quantity that is defined is called a second. Okay, in order to measure time, whichever part of the world you go to, again, second is the same. So in order to measure things, all right, people have defined fixed quantities. Okay, scientists have defined fixed quantities or standard quantities. Okay, or something called units, remember. Okay, so what is measurement? Measurement means to compare an unknown quantity. Like, for example, I want to measure the length of this piece of wood. So the length of this piece of wood is an unknown quantity for me. Okay, length of this piece of wood is an unknown quantity for me. So what I do is, in order to measure its length, I compare it to a known quantity. Like, for example, centimeter is a known quantity to me. Okay, I compare the length of this piece of wood to this centimeter. Okay, and as you can see, the length of this piece of wood is much longer than a centimeter. It's almost 4 times a centimeter. So we say the length of this wood is 4 centimeters. Okay, the length of this wood is 4 centimeters. That is what we say. So what are we doing here? In order to know the length of this wood, which was an unknown quantity, we take a known quantity of the same kind. This is length. All right, so we compare the length of this wood to our known quantity, to a fixed quantity. Okay, so this process of comparing an unknown quantity to a known fixed quantity of the same kind is what is called measurement. Measurement is always comparing an unknown quantity to a known quantity of the same kind. I gave you an example of measurement of length. Likewise, let me give you, safer example, measurement of mass. Okay, I hope all of you have seen that what is it called, physical balance or a common balance. In Nepali it's called a taraju. Okay, I don't know whether you all have seen a taraju or not. if you go to a grocery shop, okay, you might be able to see a taraju over there. Okay, of course these days they have that digital machines, okay, different shops, but in some of the shops you might get to see a taraju, a common balance or a physical balance. Now a common balance, let me draw a picture over here, a very rough picture. So in a common balance, what you have is, you have two pans like this. A very rough picture I'm drawing, hope you all understand. Okay, and it's hung from the center here. All right, now in one of the pans you place different weights, like a weight of 1 kg. Okay, and say for example you go to buy potatoes. All right, or say for example, so these are your potatoes, so you place your potatoes in the other pan. Okay, so like we've defined, 1 kilogram is a fixed quantity. Whichever part of the world you go to, 1 kilogram weight will always be the same. So say for example you place 1 kilogram weight over here and you want to buy 1 kilogram of potatoes, so you place potatoes on the other pan. And once this thing gets balanced, this thing doesn't get balanced initially, okay, it'll move like this up and down the two pans. All right, but once this is balanced, okay, you get to know the amount of potatoes that you have put in here, all right, is the same as 1 kilogram. The mass of this many potatoes is 1 kilogram, and you buy it, of course. Okay, so what are we doing here also? We are comparing the mass of the different potatoes that we have here with our fixed mass, which is that of 1 kilogram. We are comparing the mass of these potatoes. Okay, all right, so remember, measurement therefore is simply comparing an unknown quantity to a known fixed or standard quantity of the same kind. This fixed or standard quantity is basically called units. That is what I said. Okay, so I think this much will do for this video. In the next video, okay, we are going to discuss about different physical quantities in general, specifically. Like for example, we are going to discuss about mass, we are going to discuss about length, we are going to discuss about time, maybe we will discuss about temperature. But do remember, in order to measure any physical quantities are measurable quantities, remember, anything that can be measured. So mass, length, time, all are physical quantities, remember. In order to measure any physical quantity, we will always need the help of fixed quantities or standard quantities or so-called units, remember. In order to measure any physical quantity, we will always need the help of a unit. Okay, all right, so with this I end my video. Hope you all understand. Anything you don't understand, any doubt you have, you can always let me know. Okay, you can write it down in the comment section of this video, or you can let me know through WhatsApp itself. All right, take care, stay safe, thank you.